Welcome to the Headed Home podcast. I am Andrew.
I'm Jen.
And we are your hosts. And we have a great episode for you today. So much so that we're actually sitting next to each other as opposed to across from each other. I feel good about that. I feel like it's going to be a good podcast. I feel close to you right now.
I wouldn't get that close. I didn't put deodorant on yet. Sorry.
I knew that was coming. You really know how to make a guy feel special. All right. On that note, in all seriousness, we are very excited because we have a rock star in the real estate community joining us today as our guest. Before I introduce him, I want to remind you that if you listen to this and you like this episode and you want to support us, please like it on social media, share it, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We are very grateful for your support. Now, our guest today is a super cool dude. He's a baller in the real estate community and just a great guy. And I want to introduce Jeremy Kane. Jeremy, what is up, my friend?
What's up, guys? How are you? Thanks for having me.
We're doing good, man. We appreciate you being on. We're happy about it. And you, we've been connected for a few years, I know, on social media, and you caught my eye because you consistently post valuable content, like meaningful. I really like your content, and it's consistent, and it's on multiple platforms. And from someone in the sales industry like you, I think it's really cool, man. You do a really great job. All the while, you're crushing it in real estate. So you're one of those, you're able to do it on social media. I see you pop up live on Instagram all the time. So I see you doing that. I see you crushing it in real estate. So when do you sleep, man?
Well, I have a 6 and a 4-year-old on top of that. So not very, actually I do. I sleep 6 to 8 hours a night, which is sometimes I feel like too much, but it's been a process, and it started with, the Facebook Lives, my Why Invest Wednesdays. I think since January 20th, 2020, I've been every single Wednesday. I think I missed one when I was on a houseboat in Lake Powell. And then I kind of, picked up tools and things like that to help me, blast it out to different platforms. I have a setup here where I just have my camera and it goes to Facebook, goes to my Facebook business page, Twitter, and then I use my phone right next to it. So multi tools, but it took a while to get there. And at first, the content was probably not as amazing as it is today, but I appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, well, it's a work in progress for sure. Yeah. It takes time.
Yeah, it does. Okay, I'm super interested in hearing kind of the background on how you started all of this stuff. First of all, just where are you from?
I'm from Lakewood, Colorado. Graduated from Lakewood High School in 2002. And then I went up to CSU and graduated from CSU in 2006 and moved back from Fort Collins to the Denver metro area and been here the whole time. So that's the kind of the secret ingredient to my quick success in the real estate world is just that sphere and keeping in touch with, all kinds of people and not being a jerk. I pride myself on not being a jerk.
Isn't it, dude? Isn't it crazy how far that actually goes when you're just not a jerk?
Right.
And people appreciate you.
I try and tell my 6 and 4-year-old that exact thing because
good luck convincing
lucky
them.
For me, I wasn't a jerk, maybe except for 1 time or 2 times all the way through high school. So a lot of my clients are high school, elementary school friends, and that kind of catapulted me into different realms of the business.
That's awesome. So how long have you been in the real estate industry?
It's about 8 years, 11 months. I think July 5th is my 9-year anniversary of getting into real estate. And it's been an amazing life change for me from the teaching. And I was in corrections actually before that. Right.
Yeah. Tell me, how did you, what'd you do before? And how did you all of a sudden decide real estate made the most sense?
Well, ultimately, my goal after I got my bachelor's degree was to save the world. And so I
have that in common with you.
I have my degree in psychology, was applying for jobs because the only thing I knew is I didn't want to go get my master's, which in psychology it's kind of I feel like it's a high school degree really, but the experiences were great. So that's all that matters. But got a job at a halfway house, adult felons, had a caseload of over 1,200, met with them, checked in with them, breathalyzers, drug tests, kind of did it all. And
hold on really fast. For people that don't know what case managing 1,200 human beings is like a legit like situation. I mean, that's a lot of, you have to manage a lot of things within those 1,200 people.
Right. And that was before just like computer notes, right? Like I had files, we had to write reports. There was different programs all across. We had some that were like in-house, kind of, we were in charge of their supervision. We had parolees, we had probation. So as people just kept quitting, I just kept getting more people on my caseload. And I'm able to manage a lot. I'm decent at time management, not the most organized person, but I just work hard. Whatever it is, it's not about the paycheck at the end. It's, so that kind of gained. And within 18 months, I was actually an administrator of 2 facilities, ran an in-house female facility, 35 offenders, and also ran the outpatient facility that is where I started working with, all the parolees and that kind of stuff. So I did that, learned a lot, learned that the success rate of people who use drugs is not great, especially, that time it was all meth and a lot of, that was a huge catapult to all things criminal. So that was hardest 3 years of my professional career, which is fair. Fresh out of college, learned a ton, gained some work ethic, even more than I had. And at that point, I decided to become a teacher, and I went into at-risk teaching. So the tagline was, I'm going to save these kids before they become offenders, because, while I was pretty good at my job in corrections, the 1 out of 10 and 2 out of 10 success rate was tough for me. So I moved on, I taught, and I think my success rate went up to like 4 or 5 or 6%. Actually, my first student just bought a house, I believe, in March from me. So that was super cool.
So freaking cool.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yep. And it was a student that came to me at 14, and his girlfriend came to me at 17 and said, "Hey, Jeremy, we're going to have a baby." And I was like, "What? You're 14? Like, how's that?" And this student in particular, I was friends with his parents and they didn't know yet. And so that was a little bit odd. But so much respect for them. I did an episode with them not too long ago, and they were like, "We're doing it." Dominic graduated when he was 16, I think. His wife graduated at 18 on time. And now they have 4 boys. And so moving them into a house was, one of my favorite memories as a realtor.
It's really cool.
Yep. That's beautiful, man.
Stayed the course, and a lot of people would have not done that and not given those kids the life that, they deserve. So it's super awesome. One of my, my favorite memory as a realtor. Yep.
So how did you get to a place where you were teaching and jump over to real estate?
Yeah, well, my dad has been in the business for a long time. He's managing broker of a company that I left about a year ago. And so I called him. It was 2013, right? Yeah, that's how the math works out. And obviously at that time, real estate had kind of come in and out of the toughest time in real estate. And I called him and I was a little nervous because he had merged his company with a bigger company. He had, lost a bunch of agents through the downturn and all that stuff. So he combined forces with where he's at now. And he was like, I thought he was going to be like, "You're crazy. Like, it's so hard with the market shifting and all that stuff." He's like, "You'll be great at it when are you starting?" And so that was, nice. That was super cool. And he was a amazing asset for me, learning all the contracts, all the processes, and he's on his way out, and he's still friends with me. So now that I left his company, we're still cool.
That's good.
But that's been awesome, because now in my current role as kind of a, team leader of a collaboration, people call me and ask me questions all the time, and there's no, like, I pretty much know most of the things that people are going to ask me, and what form do you do here and what do you do here. So that allows me to, focus on building my own business, because collaborating with other professionals like yourself and other realtors, a lot of real estate agents are like, get off my lawn, don't talk to me. But when the market got tough, I made a choice to build relationships. I mean, that's what I've done all along, is build relationships. You have to build relationships with offenders to make sure that they trust you enough to, utilize your help, and students and clients and then realtors. So building relationships with other realtors has been a huge part of my business. And that was just kind of my journey to where I'm at.
I love that. And we were just having a conversation recently about relationships and how important they are in everything. I mean, especially in our industry. But okay, so you got in 2013, and I know you're having a lot of success now. And it's an interesting market right now. It's always competitive. One of the themes that we talk a lot about on this podcast is failing, falling down, getting back up, overcoming obstacles, being better for it, learning from it. Is there something that sticks out in your mind about maybe the biggest failure that you had in your career?
I mean, I would say my biggest failure is future failure, and not being willing to step back and like have that setback. When we had our second kid, my wife quit working. She stays home with the kids. Quit working is kind of a loose term. She works her tail off. She makes signs. She does all kinds of stuff. She manages our properties. So she quit going to her job, I guess, is a better. But now that's a lot of pressure on me. And that's been, some stuff with our family, just like, okay, this is the adjustment. I feel a ton of pressure. She's like, we're good. So that fear of failure is probably my biggest failure. Obviously, the halfway house and the schooling and that kind of stuff, those were not failures. I learned from every single second of every single one of those. And then the day-to-day failures. But as far as a huge failure, I've been lucky. My parents were amazing, although divorced, were great. Inspirations to me. They got along. They made things work for me. But I can't. The last failure I can really point to is like my statistics test in college. So, no, and that's not to say that I don't fail. Like,
no, it's not. And I want to touch on that point, though. For our listeners, is successful people. They don't. I think like you said something, and it kind of reminded me of like a Michael Jordan quote, where it was like, if you could change one thing in your career, what would you change? Or it was kind of the same question, like, what's the biggest issue that you've had, or what was your biggest failure? And he was like, I'm nothing. Like everything that's happened to me, I've learned from, and I've taken something from it. And I think that's just a powerful idea, and something that we try and keep in our heads too, is you have to learn from mistakes or things that may look like failures, but you got to keep going.
Right. You can't dwell. I mean, I'm reading The Power of One More by Ed Milet right now. And that's a huge thing, is you can't do anything about the past. The only thing you can do about the past is learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And if you're looking backwards all the time instead of into the future, you're not able to become your best self. And so that's that's it. And I'm just reading that book right now. Literally, it's on my desk.
Well, I appreciate you recommended that podcast to me, and we listened to it in the car.
Yeah, I cried for
We're both like in tears towards the end of that. I was like, oh my God, like That was, if you're listening to this, on his podcast is where I found it. I think it's called the Ed Milet Show. And it's a recent episode where he gives this speech at an event you were attending, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, virtually.
Right?
I attended that.
Okay. Yeah. Beautiful speech.
Just
a lot of powerful.
Top-notch dude, man. He's on it all day. Different gears, has leadership written all over him. So, and, so that's kind of my failure story.
Right on.
Well, what is, because now you've been in real estate for a lengthy amount of time. What is like one thing that you just love the most about your job?
The challenge. I'm like Andrew, I'm an ultra competitor, sports my whole life. I love the competition. I love going to bat for my clients. I pride myself in, I did a considerable number of transactions last year, but it was like a fight, right? Where people are like, I don't want buyers. I just want listings. I don't want first-time home buyers. I don't want FHA. I don't want down payment assistance. I take them all, right? Because I'm here to change people's lives, and you can't change people's lives that already have everything. So that's been huge for me. The competition, the piece, like when I don't get an offer, even when I know I'm not going to get it, where we just don't have the capability to put down on the contract what is, needed to win the deal, I get pissed. Like I just hate losing. I have to win. And as a result, those relationships are turned quicker into lifelong relationships and repeat clients. And so that's a huge part of my success. Like, okay, let's be smart about this. Let's look at everything, but let's get in, right? Get into this market because I saw what was coming. I see what's coming next spring. Like everyone's freaking out about the market. We've been asking for this market for so long, like begging for it. And now it's here and all the real estate agents are freaking out, blasting social media with the crash and all this stuff. And so I just embrace it. I can't control the market. I can control people's experiences.
You know what I love that you just said, because when at the beginning of our talk, and I think this is really cool. And for people in particular, as I'm thinking about myself, I just got out of education, but what I think is really cool, Jeremy, about your like mission and vision for your life, like your goal of helping people has always, like, it's always been that, regardless of what you're doing. And so I think what is really cool when you're very clear on that, people see that, and it's people appreciate that, right? And it's very easy to tell the difference between someone that's there to like help and serve other people and someone who's not. And I just think that's really cool that you still have that piece in place with your real estate profession.
And that was kind of a key to me when I started. I was like, okay, I wanted to save the world right out of college. And then I got into it and couldn't save the world after we had felonies and all that stuff. But I tried hard. Yeah. And then I went to the education piece and did a little better there. But it's all about, like, I want to help people.
Right.
Tagline, helping people build financial, freedom through real estate. All of that stuff is real. And a lot of that's based on my experiences. I bought my first house when I was 18. My dad helped me back when, sellers could pay down payments and, he was in real estate and all that stuff.
Was really a thing.
And we got into a house and he actually made money on the deal a little bit, I think. And, that at 18, I had a house and I was renting it to my friends and I didn't have to pay rent through college. Sorry, boys, if you're watching this, even though you know that now. But that one house changed my financial trajectory forever. And I didn't even manage it properly. As 18, how could I?
Right.
And so then, my girlfriend, now wife, and I bought a house after we graduated college, and she was able to buy that house independently, $120,000 for a detached house in Englewood. It's pretty sweet. It was in rough shape. We fixed it up and sold it 6 years later. But those two homes have pretty much set me on a path that, I can't really mess up, So that's, super grateful for all of that. But I saw what two pieces of real estate did for my life beyond any amount of money my parents ever made, anybody in my family's ever made. 2 homes allowed for the comfort to get there and to have the time to build my real estate business and my investment portfolio as a result.
What's like, when you look at your career so far, like what's one of the most proudest moments? Or I know you mentioned selling that home to one of your previous students, but is there something else in the back of your mind? Maybe because I know you lead a lot of people. Anything related to that?
Well, I live in the moment, like I said, right? So I'm not great at looking backwards. Yesterday, 2 of my newer agents got homes under contract in the same day, put a new listing on. So that was cool.
Awesome.
But I would say, a proud moment outside of number one, of having, a legit person who was 14 years old in front of me with a life-changing, obstacle.
That's huge.
Purchase a house. I would say just my relationships with the Wolfpack at EXP. I'm good friends with Mike Sherrard, Louis Galt. Like we're brothers. We've known each other from a video screen and COVID to now, texting, talking every day, coming and hanging out when he's in town and things like that. So just those relationships are probably my proudest moment, whether it's agents below me that I can mentor and bring up, agents that choose to join me, that are top producers or, have it figured out, or people above me that are extreme mentors to me. It's, I would say those relationships in general, I'm proudest of those. And
awesome.
I have mentors, and Mike and, Ed Milet's one of them as well. I haven't met Ed yet, but that's on the list. Having those mentors allows me to, they give a ton, but also I learn just as much from the new agents. Right.
Yeah.
And so building those relationships, you're equal. We're not going to all do it the same. This is how I do it, but how can I help you get to where you need to be is, just another progression in the career, I think, is helping people, all people. Building wealth through, or building financial freedom through real estate also can include agents, becoming, top producers.
Well, and I'll just real quick, it seems like a value that you kind of lead with in your day-to-day, whether it's leading your team or leading your clients in the right direction, is education and helping them. And I've talked with other like colleagues about this too, like that say they're in sales, or like everyone's in sales, like in business, but like, I feel like if you have that philosophy of I'm just going to help people. I'm just going to help as many people as I can. I'm going to marry the process, divorce the result. I'm really that's just my goal every day, is to try and help somebody. It's crazy how successful you can be, because you're providing value to the marketplace, and you get paid and you get hired, and your relationships are built based on the value that you bring. And I just love that value. And I think it's a good philosophy for anybody who's in quote unquote sales.
Yeah. Detaching from the outcome is huge for new agents, especially new lenders, I'm sure too. If you're married to the transaction, if you have to have that if the transaction is your paycheck and you can't pay your bills without it, you can't detach from the outcome.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's a mindset thing. It's an abundance mindset versus scarcity mindset. Right. And the scarcity mindset comes through when you're talking to your people, and they feel that, and it's just not a good feeling. It feels like there's ulterior motives.
Right. And absolutely. I mean, something that comes to mind from that is there was 2 former Devlin basketball players that reached out right when I posted that I was going to get my license. And they were both like, yeah, we're absolutely going to use you. Like, we're going to buy a house here, whatever. One of them bought a house, but his mom was helping him with a little bit of the funds, which is very normal in a first purchase. Mm-hmm. And his mom had a realtor. And, as much as that stung right away, that was literally month 1 or 2 in my business. And, I had kind of relied on that income, whatever. But I was like, oh man, that's awesome. I'm so happy that you got into something. What's the address? Let me keep in touch with you. And I mean, I've had relationships ruined. I've seen agents ruin relationships with a lot closer friends. And I coached at Devlin, and I didn't coach them. They were before me, and both of them actually. And that one, I don't know why I said it, just came out of my mouth. Like, that's awesome. I was truly happy for him. Although, yeah, I missed out on $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, whatever the commission was. But that one comment led me to be able to sell that house that he bought a few short years later and purchase another one. And then we're making more money, and so that's a huge point I drive home, is detach yourself from the outcome. Like, you have to understand that it'll come back. And if someone's paying the bills, they're going to call the shots. Right. And his mom had nothing against me. She just was comfortable with this other person. And then the other one, funny enough, bought a new build. Right. He's like, oh, I'm under contract on a new build, whatever. He used somebody that he played with at Ralston Valley or something, and on a club team. And he's like, the real estate agent was there when we signed the paperwork and showed up at closing. I did not have one conversation with him in between. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll never, use anyone else again. And he hasn't bought another house yet. He's due though. He just had a baby. So Hooper, if you're watching, we're coming for you.
Hooper?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that's just how it's always been. And it's been okay. Right? Like, keep in touch.
Well, and it goes back to relationships. Yeah. Right. I mean, you built those relationships, and you were helping along the way, you were guiding. And I think that that's going to get you that future opportunity, at least.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. Before you get to kind of touch on some stuff, I just want to ask 2 questions. So first thing, kind of 2022 and beyond, what are like your crazy goals that you have for yourself?
This year, my goal is to sell 75 houses, 750,000 in gross commission, and 35 million. And those are all based on numbers that are, kind of reverse engineered from average price point.
Right.
I didn't quite expect the appreciation jump, so we're way ahead on volume. Transactions are down, but I mean, we'll see. Like, it just comes together. I'm at 16.5 million this year in volume and 22 transactions. And that's kind of the norm. Like, there's just, houses are more expensive. So realtors get paid more, and maybe a little less because, we're starting to see that 2.8 dwindle down a little bit offered. But those aren't real goals. Those are just production goals. It's how I kind of keep going, how I stay on the train. My goal is to have 1,000 agents in my organization, and help at least 100 of them become financially free through the program. My next goal is to, put all of my kids through college and pay for their weddings since they're girls. So kind of, and provide that life. I also have a goal to purchase them a house when they do go off to college. Maybe, I don't know. College is not as cool as it once was, I don't think, but at least help them purchase a house so they can get started financially the right way. And then the other goal is just to help 100 clients become financially free through real estate investment and that kind of stuff. So kind of big term, long term. Yeah, I have yachts on my vision board and, all kinds of stuff, but ultimately, it's just about wanting to help more people over time. And eventually, with the model at EXP where I'm at, I would like to go less into production, more into helping other agents scale and be compensated appropriately like I can be at EXP. And so that's kind of the kind of big board goals, I guess.
I love that you have personal and professional, because I think that's really important, especially when you're, looking for like a balance and a healthy life, that those things, I know we talk about that a lot. We use a book by Darren Hardy, and he has like a what does he call it? It's like a wheel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't even know. Anyway, but it has, like financial goals, spiritual, physical, mental, all that stuff. And I think when you think about your goals in that way, it can really ensure that you're kind of like hitting all of those important pieces, that are human needs, you know?
Absolutely. If you're not fulfilled from a, family perspective or spirituality perspective, or you're not healthy enough to, enjoy the fruits of your labor, those are all huge things. I'm doing 75 hard right now. And that's, one of the reasons, like, I want to be alive when my kids are 55. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's all part of that. And it's been interesting because 75 hard, people are like, oh, that sounds crazy, and the coolest part, I'm on day 12, so we'll see how far I get, but it's been fairly easy for me. And it's been a little rewarding. Like I told you guys offline, I think I took my daughter on a walk this morning. Like, when's the last time I spent 45 dedicated minutes without sister, without mom, without, TV shows, without games? I'm a big sports guy. So, and just talked, and it was super cool. But so building those relationships is huge as well. Right. Mm-hmm. Like I can't work my life away to retire when I'm 50 and then have to build those relationships at that point. Yeah. And I also have to be healthy enough to live past 55.
Yeah. Well, so. That's a great point. It's all connected though, too. When I do like a 75 hard, which I haven't done, but, I feel like I do a little bit of a version of that every single day, like whatever, if you have a workout that is going to beat you down and you get through it, it builds some sort of a mental toughness, for me, it builds confidence, mm-hmm. So I feel like if I'm not true to myself in those other areas like health, it's going to be, I'm going to get exposed in business or in relationships or whatever, it's all connected.
That's what I said to you this morning. What
was the quote that you said?
I said, how you do one thing in your life is how you do everything.
Absolutely.
Like shit, if that doesn't just slap you across the face, but it's so true. If I'm it is connected though. If I'm being lazy in my relationship with my kids, or if I'm being lazy in how I'm taking care of myself, or if I'm being lazy in the work that I do, or whatever, lazy in our relationship, that does impact you get else. In these habits of like, I'm gonna let a little slide here, and then it becomes a habit, and it does impact the other parts of your life.
Right. That's my counter in my mental state from, there's not enough time in the day, mm-hmm. because there is enough time in the day, because, mm-hmm. It's just how you manage the time, priorities within the time. And so that's great. What gets measured gets managed is another
so true.
Huge
what
piece.
Gets measured gets managed.
Right.
I always used to say that.
Okay, I like that one.
I used to say that to administrators all the time. Like if you're not measuring or if you're not looking at the data and whatever, you gotta make sure that you're doing that. Right. Really fast, because you're from Lakewood. I think this is really, really important, and then I'll hand it off to you. Top 3 favorite places in Colorado, or things to do.
In Lakewood or in Colorado? Or
whatever.
Lakewood?
You just surprised me. Lakewood, Colorado,
because I'm a Lakewood native too, Jeremy.
I'm so interested, and I'm from Arvada, so I've grown up here my whole life. I'm just interested in
that doesn't count.
People who've grown up here.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah. Got it. Top 3 things in Colorado. My favorite place in the whole world is Grand Lake, Colorado. Mm-hmm. I purchased a short-term rental up there last year. That was kind of a dream come true as well.
Awesome.
On the right side of the highway, right off the lake, quarter mile from the boat launch.
When we going?
Whenever, baby. We'll figure it out.
All right. I got my fishing pole. I'm ready.
I got to get a boat first. That's
okay. I got a kayak.
Okay.
Paddleboard?
I got a paddleboard, but I struggle.
I don't think both of you will fit in the kayak.
Not in the kayak.
You can borrow my kayak.
Okay. So Grand Lake, I love Grand Lake. I love the access to the mountains. I've always lived west of I-20. I've always lived west of I guess Sheridan. Technically, I grew up on 6th and Wadsworth. Literally, my front yard was 6th Avenue on the Wadsworth exit. So the access to the mountains has always been huge for me. Just getting up there, getting some fresh air, walking down a creek, walking in a creek. I love water, love the ocean too, but that's probably one of them. As far as Lakewood, it's just there, right? I mean, I don't know. Like
it's close to the mountains.
It is there. That's cool.
Literally.
I spent
Where
most
it's at.
of my high school nights in the 7-Eleven parking lot waiting for the next party right at Garrison Alameda. So I'll say that's a favorite landmark.
Oh, yeah.
I guess. I don't know. And then that's a hard question. I mean, I love sports. So, the access to the sports and the facilities downtown has always been super cool. Huge Nuggets, Avalanche, Broncos fan. I used to be a Rockies fan, but they made me mad, so I'm still trying to get over it. The Arenado thing kind of upset me, and now they just have a shitty product. Sorry about my language if that's not allowed, but
no, it's allowed.
Cool.
Yeah, it's if I'm included, it's absolutely allowed.
Right. So that's
okay.
That's what I love to do.
Favorite restaurant? I'm just so interested in this. Favorite restaurant in like the Lakewood, Morrison, Bear Creek area.
Tough.
There's not a whole lot of.
Let him talk. I want to hear.
My favorite current restaurant, like everyday restaurant, would be like the 49th, which is down here off of like Kipling and Quincy. They do a good job. The owner Josh there is awesome. Great food, cold beer, which I can't have for 75 days in the middle of summer. But
great service.
Yeah, good service. There's been a few old Devlin managers that have worked there and stuff that I've come across. But I would say that's my favorite restaurant. Like every day, I'm not a huge 5-star restaurant place. One like kind of exotic restaurant that I don't know if a lot of people don't know about is L5 downtown. And they have tapas and it's completely different. Like I went there and I was like, I don't know what to order. Just give me some stuff. And it's amazing. Great view of the city. It's in Lohi. So that's kind of one that's kind of middle of the road, not super. And then any steakhouse is on the list, the Elways, the Shanahans, Del Fresco's, all that stuff. But I haven't found like one that's like, all right, like every time I have an important event in my life, this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of Lakewood culture. Like
it is.
I mean, Lakewood, Littleton, like it's like, okay, well, like, do I want to go to the corporate world or, kind of the mom and pops that just get it done? And so I would say 49th is.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Good choice.
All right. Couple more questions here. You brought up the Power of One that you're reading from Ed Milet. I just downloaded that. I pre-ordered it on Audible, so I'm going to listen to that soon. So that's one book, but does another book come to mind, or do you have like just a couple book recommendations? We talk about a lot of books around personal development and growth on this podcast. So any recommendations?
Yeah. Obviously the basics, right? Think and Go Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Those are things that, are just kind of come natural, right? And then
the prerequisites,
right? If you're reading, you have to read those. I mean, I really like Traction. I have that sitting right here on my as far as business building, it's a really good, 12-week year. All these are kind of basic ones, but the one that I would say probably that I love the most is Going Pro. I thought that was a really cool way.
Turning Pro.
Turning Pro. Yeah, it's called Turning Pro. It's sitting right behind me.
Steve Pressfield.
That is such a good book.
And the thing I like about that book is it's super easy to read, and it's kind of like in short stories, like short clips, and just kind of flows really well. But obviously the content's there as well. Atomic Habits is good. So I'm kind of on this journey. I actually didn't read a book from a book cover to cover from 3rd grade through all the way through college. And I graduated in the minimum amount of years possible. So that was cool. Not minimum possible, but that was kind of my claim to fame. And then I read that book by Jay Billis. I can't even think of the name of it, that he wrote. And that kind of changed my trajectory of reading and kind of now that in the business world, like it was always like, I don't have enough time in the day for self-development. And I kind of just said, that's BS, over the last year and kind of dove in and 10 pages a day, part of 75 Hard as well.
Okay. I was going to ask you that, like because that was my next question is like, we've talked about working on yourself and how it's important. There's that Jim Rohn quote, work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
Yep.
So it sounds like maybe you've got some of that personal development stuff structured in.
I do.
Nice.
The secret is wake up before your kids and be as quiet as you can.
Isn't it crazy?
That's true.
Like I mean, you wake up at 4:30. I wake up at 4:45, but if you are really thoughtful and intentional about the time that you or what you're doing with that time in the morning, and like, are you reading, are you writing down like what you're grateful for, are you moving your body, are you like all that stuff, it can really like set your day up for success. What are some of the systems, I guess, like as far as time management goes or business, like what are some of the systems that have been most effective for you in your life and in business?
And this is, we kind of discovered the wake up before the kids probably about a year ago. We did have one extremely early riser that would wake up like the second that we, hit the stairs or whatever.
Yeah. They heard a creak.
Right. We're through that a little bit. But what I do, my alarm goes off at 5. Typically I wake up at 4:30. I'm trying to get to the point where I can just wake up then. So like go back to sleep. I hit the snooze button one time, maybe. Depending on the day. If I'm super pumped, I just pop out of bed and it's ready to roll. But immediately I currently let my puppy out and go stand outside in the cold with her because she needs people to stand out there. She just comes inside and pees on the floor. But so I do that. But even
Andrew
with
does that
piece,
too.
even with that piece of it, like just standing outside at 5 o'clock in the morning and like getting fresh air. And like the new day, the crispness of the air in Colorado, whether it's summer, winter, whatever, has, that's my breathing time. I struggle to take deep breaths often, but that's, so that's turned to that. I come inside, I read, I make sure I'm eating or drinking water, have that queued up the night before. And then I read my 10 pages. And right now I go into my next workout, whatever that may be, Peloton, weights in the garage. Today I went on a walk because I have to do weights later because my wife is teaching a dance or has a dance recital that she's a dance teacher. So kind of flexible there, but I get a workout in. And then the kids are usually awake when I come inside. Sometimes, depending on how drenched I am, I eat breakfast at that point with the kids, with the family. We all sit around the island and eat, or the table, usually the island for breakfast. And that's when we do our gratitudes. So a lot of the things that you just touched on happen and completely changed everything. And, when I'm 75 Hard, logging onto the app and whatever, and I can check half of the things off by 7:30 in the morning, it's not that hard to finish the other things.
And there's no distractions, right? That's another thing. Getting up before the kids is one thing, but then also just the phone calls and the texts and the emails,
right?
And just the day to day, right? That's awesome. You kick that out in the morning.
I think I've always been an early riser, but I would say 2-3 years ago it was wake up and look at social media.
Yeah.
Wake up and look at emails and wake up and, start my business day. And I think that's a huge reason for, just kind of the changed outlook and the ability to stay up a little bit later, right? Yeah. The energy, keeping the energy going, getting the energy moving, eating healthy and that water and all that stuff makes it so at 8 o'clock when I put the kids to bed, I don't fall asleep in their bed and walk across the hall and go back to my bed.
Yeah.
I don't.
You're better at that than so we're just
like, hey, how are you?
Yeah. Nice to see you today.
One thing that I really I think we've been kind of on this journey for a few years now, and I it's cool to hear you say it too, but having kids that are similar ages, and I'm always thinking of like, what am I intentionally like teaching them about life, or like, what do I want them to like do when they're older? I think what's cool is like kids are always watching, right? Like they listen at like half the shit we say, but like they're always watching what we're doing. And so if they're seeing mom like take care of herself, or they're seeing mom read, or if they're seeing mom, you know, write out what she's grateful for, or we do gratefuls at the end of the night and talk about goals and stuff. And I think like you're intentionally setting up a structure for your kids when they're older to think about like, hey, these are the things my parents taught me to do to be successful in my day. And I just think that's super cool.
Yeah. And I mean, with our youngest, we were pretty intentional about it. Like when she could talk, she started saying her gratitude every morning. And it was the same gratitude.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally.
But
every day.
It was.
Mommy and daddy.
Well, it was mommy and sometimes daddy, but mommy multiple times for a while. But now we're cool.
That's awesome.
But you know, that is entrenched. Like literally today we were talking about something else and you know, whatever. And Kenley, my youngest daughter, just starts saying her gratitude like while she's clearing her plate. Like
that's awesome.
I love that.
You know, like, and she's the one that just said mommy and mommy usually. So that's just obviously where, you know, repetition comes from. And that was her natural instinct today, which was super cool.
It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Said that.
Built in. Yeah, built in as a habit.
Right.
All right, two more questions. One, and this is in line with, this is a surprise question. We always do this, but you already brought up the 75 hard. I saw you post something about that recently. The surprise question is, what is the hardest part so far about the 75 hard?
I will tell you, it's a second workout. Just planning that into the day. Not because it's a hard workout and not because I'm like running miles or anything or doing anything super intense. Like typically the second workout's a walk or, you know, whatever, leg weights. I don't know. I haven't started running up hills, but I might do that. I have a bad knee, so that's going to be difficult for me. But the timing of the second workout, right? Because especially because of how I have my day set up, like the book is done before I do anything. The first workout's done naturally. I take a, you know, progress picture, which is part of it, before I get in the shower after my workout. And then like eating healthy breakfast is kind of built in. That kind of gets you started, but the timing, especially in the real estate world with, you know, a sliding scale of requirements, we have activities with kids. This weekend's a little hard because, you know, my kids are in all kinds of stuff, dance, gymnastics, soccer. Well, today, like my wife she teaches at the ballet studio that is having the recital. So she has rehearsals yesterday, today, and the show is tomorrow. So I have to show houses and then I have to go get both kids from dance rehearsal. And then I have to take one of the kids to gymnastics, you know? So where does that set in? And so today I went for a walk early, which is not normal. I usually do my like, you know, lifting and Peloton and that cardio stuff early, so that I can put the kids to bed and get that workout in. Because I can't just leave. That
would be tough.
Right.
I get that.
So the timing is the biggest part.
Timing.
And it's, I mean, I've become a slave to my Google Calendar prior to this. So it helps. Like I can say, okay, this is exactly what I have going on today. This is where I can fit 45 minutes in, you know, freshen up and be to this meeting on time or whatever. So that's the hardest part for me. The block party was also hard.
The what?
The block party, because you have to be on a diet. It doesn't have to be any diet, but like mac and cheese sandwiches, and like everyone brings out their like best heart attack meal at block parties.
You're walking around with some celery,
right? And I drink beer, like that's what I do, and so that was a little bit of a change for the neighbors, but we did it, and you know, it's good.
That's good, man. That's good. All right, last little question here. We touched on the market briefly. We don't need to go into it super extensively, but any advice for clients or agents in this market, or if you want to pick one, I know that's a broad question. I mean, there's sellers, there's buyers, there's a lot of different people, but like, do you have advice, just one piece of advice for this market and what you're seeing?
Yeah. The market has shifted slightly. Like I said, it's a market we've all been as professionals asking for a long time. And now everyone's like on video and has to like have content. So people are kind of diving into that content a ton. But from a consumer's perspective, listen to yourself. Like, if the time is right for you, the time is right for you. We will never predict the market the right way. Like, we'll never buy the stocks unless we're in the government. Sorry, you might get canceled for that at the right time before, whatever happens. But so that's it. Like, don't buy based on the lowest interest rates in history. Don't not buy because appreciation's high and the interest rates are a little bit higher. Because things change, life changes. Buying and selling a home should be based on your situation, your life right now. What do you need? What do you want? Enjoy your life while you're here, kind of deal, and what you can take care of. And if you're renting, it's getting harder and harder and harder every single day to save. Rent is going up,
and rent keeps going up with inflation.
More than inflation. Right? Rent always outpaces inflation.
Oh, real estate's a hedge against inflation because your rate's fixed.
Right. So that's my advice, is take a real look at your life and what matters. Right. And
love it.
And that's it. Like, we can't do that. We can't guess what the market's going to do up, down, sideways. I will tell you, in Denver, the market's going to at least appreciate at a slower rate, hopefully, but you'll be okay. And I tell my clients all the time, if shit hits the fan and the world can recover from shit hitting the fan, which I question sometimes right now with some of the things that are being tossed around. But if it does, just hold on. Make sure you can rent your house out for the majority of your mortgage payment or all of it. You got to flex. But the bottom line is you have to live somewhere, right? You have to have a shelter. Yeah. Do you want to hang on? Do you want to get that extra job and pay for your mortgage? Or do you want to get that extra job and pay someone else's as a rental? So I think that's the biggest thing, being honest with yourself, reaching out to professionals that know what they're talking about, that can help you. One quick one, and this actually is one of the proud moments too. I had a seller, actually it was a renter of mine, a former tenant who bought a house, but one of their mothers was in a terrible car accident, and she was getting her house foreclosed on. She was the original owner. It was a house off of Ward in Arvada, Ward in Arvada behind the Remax building. And she reached out and she's like, hey, like, I've been getting these letters. The daughter reached out first and then she called me, or I called her, or whatever. And I'm getting these letters and they're saying my foreclosure sale date, and it was literally 30 days away. Oh. And so I was coaching basketball at Devlin at the time, and I had practice 6 to 8. I called her and I said, we can fix this, but I have to coach basketball. So can I come over at 8:15, tonight? So it's dark, it's winter. And so I went over there, and it was like the whole family had just put the stuff they didn't want in the house because they thought they were losing it. And so I was like, okay, like, this is what we need. You got 10 days to get this stuff out. Like, she had a son who was capable. She had been in a car accident, and basically she had chosen to pay the attorneys and get those settlements versus her mortgage. And the settlement came out like, when this lady dies, you get her primary residence, divided by 3, whatever. So I went over there and I just said, okay, this is what we got to do. This is the assets I have. This is what I think we can list the house at. It was a really good time for her that way. As a realtor, I reached out to the attorneys and I said, hey, we're going to list this house. Like, can you buy us some time? They moved the sale date back, 3 months or something, because they knew she was working on it. And she was able to sell her house actually on the original proposed sale date, she sold the house and walked away with $400,000
Whoa.
because she'd owned
Going
it from
losing the house
right to a
walking away with
$400,000 check.
$400K.
Right.
Insane.
And so
Dude, that's awesome.
when people are like, oh, like, you know, the foreclosures and this and that, I'm like, there's no such thing as foreclosures when everyone's got 40% equity over the last 2 years.
Right.
You know, not to mention what they started with.
Right.
So if you do get in trouble, it's important that you reach out. And we didn't sell that at a sale. That was the highest price sale in the whole neighborhood at the time.
Wow.
And it had blue carpet, the European white with the oak cabinets. Like nothing had been taken care of. It had a great yard. And so it wasn't in like shambles by any means, but they had a lot of stuff and they cleared it out. And then it was what it was. And
so cool.
Yeah. So that's
changed their life.
Right. And now she got, you know, she's able to, moved in with her son. She didn't even have to buy another house. She needed that care anyways. And that call comes 2 weeks later and she just gave, you know, the bank $400,000.
So cool.
So
that's awesome.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
I love that. Mm-hmm. That's a great thing to end on.
That is a great thing. So Jeremy, where can people find you?
I'm all over the place, like you said. My kind of social media tagline is at JKCO Realtor, REALTOR. No I in there for those of you that struggle pronouncing the word realtor. And I also have 2 YouTube channels, Realtor Playbook and Jeremy Kane. You can just find Jeremy Kane Homes. Jeremy Kane Homes is more for the consumer. Realtor Playbook's obviously more for the realtor and kind of captures some of my coaching and passion to help agents build.
Yeah. Well, no, your YouTube stuff is great. So yeah, I recommend go check out Jeremy's stuff. Very good content, very educational. I enjoy it. So man, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners again. You know, like this video, subscribe, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. We'd really appreciate it. And until next time.
See ya.
Yeah.